Hey everyone, Sycra here, and today I have the privilege of being with the amazing artist Stanley Lau, but you might know him better by his alias Artgerm. And I think we've all been a little bit infected by his works. He's one of the biggest artists on DeviantArt. I think you are the biggest, is that correct?
No, not really.
And just an amazing artist, a very humble guy. In my limited experience with talking to him, I can just see he's a very down-to-earth guy.
I am.
Yeah. So hi, I'm so grateful that you would join me today. And
Yeah, it was quite a surprise that I didn't expect to do any video interview. This is in fact my first one. I mean, over Hangout, so it's something new for me as well.
Oh, that's good. So hopefully it won't be too painful.
No, it's never painful.
Okay. So a little bit about you. How did you get into art in the beginning? How did it start out?
Well, it was quite a long journey actually. I was officially trained in graphic design. Back then I loved to draw, but I could not have any. I couldn't find any appropriate course for me to learn how to do art, especially digital art. So I decided to do something related to that. So I actually took up graphic design as my diploma, and from then I started to invest my extra time on drawings. So that was my official training. So art is just something that I pick up myself. Not say it's the best way to do it, but there wasn't any other way, so that's how it started.
Okay, so yeah, but that's from a graphic design. When you were really young, were you watching cartoons? Did you collect comic books? Or?
Yeah, just like many of you guys, I'm quite a geek. I'll be about otaku myself. I love toys, I love comics, I love games, I love everything that's entertaining. So yeah, that's how I got started and got interested in art. Yeah.
So this is a question I had because I did a recent video and I found out a lot of people who start young or who are talented, they start young copying. Is that something that you would do?
I think it's really hard for a young person to create something completely original. So it's always good to have someone that you get inspired from, and then from then you try to learn from the person, maybe do a bit of imitation, just mimic the person's drawing, and eventually move on to the next one. I think it's a natural path to learn.
Right. So you you did copy when you were young.
Oh yeah, I was heavily influenced by those Japanese anime. So I used to draw those girls with really big eyes, big watery eyes.
Yeah.
Even for guys, I draw like that.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite anime manga?
I used to okay, there are a few manga I really love. The first one is actually Feast of North Star. That was really old. So
yeah, that's very old.
Yeah, it shows my age. And the other one is Rama Half.
Right.
Yep. So yeah, those are my favorite. And of course I have like City Hunter, and later on talking about Slam Dunk and those.
Right. So is it okay to ask how old you are?
I'm 40 now. In fact, this month I'm turning 40 this month. Yeah.
Oh, so it'll be a happy birthday maybe. Is it next week or?
In 24th, yeah.
Okay, so you were influenced by manga, but then you said you got into graphic design. How did that come about?
Yeah, as I say that I wasn't given any opportunity to pursue art. I mean, I couldn't find any official training or course or school that offer that kind of artworks I like to do. I mean, they do fine art stuff, but I am not quite into fine art. So eventually I just took up graphic design, and hopefully with that I can do a bit of illustration and eventually fulfill my dream as an artist. Yeah.
Were you always drawing before then?
Yeah, I always draw. In fact, I always believe that I'm one of the first guy, at least in Singapore, who own a Wacom tablet. I had a Wacom tablet like 18 years ago. That was the first Wacom tablet. It's like this small. It's like having 256 pressure level.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like really, really ancient.
Yeah. So, okay, and you said you had to go to graphic design because there wasn't a choice. Is that because of where you were or because of your parents?
No,
pressure?
because where we were. Because where I was. Actually, my parents had a bit of problem when I first decided to pursue art or creative industry. They were not sure whether I can actually pull it off, or what if someone really don't like my artworks or don't like my design, and how can I move on? So that was quite a debate I had with my parents. So eventually I told them, especially my dad, that just give me one chance to make a decision in my life, and I'll prove to you that I can do it. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how what started.
So
of course, now
he took the risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So you didn't mention Singapore, but is that where you were born and raised, or?
No, I was actually born in Hong Kong. I moved to Singapore when I was 17 with my family. Yeah.
Okay, so you moved to Singapore to do the graphic design.
Not really. I moved to Singapore because my dad was being asked to transfer here to Singapore to work, so we just tag along.
Okay, and how long was the school, the graphic design school? So
It was a
3 years?
diploma course for 3 years. That's right.
3 years. Okay. And did you learn anything from that you incorporate into your work? Like now?
Definitely. I always believe that my artwork has a bit of a graphic slant to it,
Yeah.
and I'm very concerned about. I mean, I'm very focused about how to package my artworks, not just the artwork itself, but the elements around it to make it look good. So there's a lot of graphic elements that's being integrated into my artworks.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed sometimes it's typography, sometimes just the colors, and there's definitely a graphic quality. Now, you did mention that you grew up pretty much influenced by Japanese manga, but
That's
when
right.
I look at your style, it's almost, I mean, I want to say a little bit Adam Hughes, a little bit Western. So did that also influence you, or did that come later on in your life?
Yeah, that kind of influence only came after I came to Singapore when I was being exposed to more Western kind of artworks. Before that, when I was in Hong Kong, it's all manga and comics. There wasn't any American influence. So because of that, my style actually evolved. So now my work looks a little bit Western and a little bit Eastern. So it's a bit of a fusion both.
Right. So that's probably created a lot of your popularity because you're able to go between both worlds then, right?
Yeah, in that sense, it's pretty good. I mean, in terms of positioning in the market, because I have clients from Japan who like to internationalize the properties, so they come to me and make it look slightly more Western.
Right.
Same thing from the West. People from the West come to me and want something to look a little bit Asian. Yeah.
Right. Wow. So that turned out to be the best of both worlds then.
Not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you get started on DeviantArt then?
About 10 years ago. I wasn't very keen on DeviantArt back then because I found DeviantArt back then was really how should I say that, amateurish. There are a lot of wallpapers and free resources to download, but I didn't actually look at it as a really important art community. So one day my friends, Kai, who's now my partner in my studio, actually recommended me to join in just to start uploading some stuff and see how it goes. So I said, all right, so I just do it, and I uploaded a bunch of my artworks, mainly paper stuff, and it caught a lot of attention by the community, and eventually become really, really popular, and that motivated me to move on and keep on uploading new stuff.
So was it really DeviantArt that got your name out there then?
I believe so. In fact, that was the only one, and now it's still the only one art community that I'm involved in.
Okay. And how did you get into the industry then?
Yep. So right after my graduation as a graphic designer, I was being employed as art director in an ad agency, and it was actually O&M. So I was there for a while and got tired of it because of the politics and human issues. So I actually quit myself there, and then I set up a new ad agency with my friends, and it was called Paprika, and I was running the agency with them for 4 years.
Wow.
And after that, I got tired of doing those corporate design stuff. I said, okay, I need to do something else. I need to do something I really love to. So I quit myself and I started up Imagery Friends.
Right. And so that was right after the ad agency then?
Yes, that's right.
So that's a big jump to go from working on advertising to like freelance illustration, or are you still doing ads?
Not so. Okay, well, the nature of the business is very different, but the biggest challenge is not so much about the way I work. It's because of the lack of opportunities in Singapore. Or I would say that at that point of time, I didn't even believe that someone from the West or from the US will come all the way to Singapore and look for me to work on some of the projects. Because I always believed that, or at least back then, I believed that there was already a lot of amazing artists in the West. They don't actually need us.
Right.
So that was the challenge.
So then, where did you find the courage to do it? Or
So what we did is that we set up the studio, we rented the space, we furnished the space, and install all the equipments. We have everything nice. I mean, everything in place, and even include our toys and collectibles in it. We have everything except projects. So we were like looking at each other, talking rubbish the whole day, and eventually we start burning our savings for at least half a year, and to the point that we have to close down before even we start. You know? So yeah, so I say, why don't we just compile our artworks, put into an art book, and try to fly down to San Diego Comic-Con and give it out like brochures, you know, it's like flyers.
Right.
So eventually we did that. So we actually printed our first art book and fly down to San Diego Comic-Con and just give them out like brochures, and it was really crazy. But we received very great response. And 2 weeks after we came back from San Diego Comic-Con, we got our first gig. And the first gig was a coloring job for G.I. Joe comics.
Wow. So if you were giving advice to yourself at that time again, what would you be saying? Like, you need to get out there, you need to go to San Diego?
No, not really. I think most important thing is that the market is ready to work with people or work with artists from any part of the world. And you just have to have faith with your own artworks, because art actually transcends boundary, and nobody actually care where you are from, whether you're from any part of the world. As long as you do good works that meets the international standard, people just work with you.
Okay. So what's it like being in a... Have you always been in the studio then, or have you ever done it just freelance, just on your own?
Actually, I spent a year of my time as a caricaturist as well.
A caricaturist, really?
Yeah, I was like a street artist, so I was like drawing caricatures at one of those like tourist attraction in Singapore. So that was a very interesting year for me.
When was this?
Oh, that was like way back before I even got my diploma. So it was like 20 years old? Oh no, or even earlier, 18, 19 years old.
Okay, and what did you learn from that experience?
Learn to be able to perform myself and stay calm in front of the public. You know. I mean, you are a caricaturist. You understand that there's only one person you can please. It's either the client, which means the person that you draw, or the people looking at you draw.
Right.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you draw him look exactly how he looks like, he may get offended. But the rest of the people will say, "Oh, that's job well done."
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. So that's a really fun experience.
Okay, so from Imaginary Friends, and where did the name come from, Imaginary Friends?
Just some random name we thought of. I thought it's something fun, something talking about our childhood, having our own imaginary friends, and just tap onto the idea of imagination. Yeah.
Right.
And of course the part of the friendship, because we don't want to make a very competitive studio. We want to make a studio that people love to hang around and become a community and bonded by friendships.
Right, and I've noticed with you, you're not selfish. You don't hold on to things. You're always giving away, your brushes. You don't care.
Not really. Some people actually accuse me for not giving up my brushes. But the fact is that I'm not using Photoshop, so I don't use Photoshop, so I don't have Photoshop brushes to give away in the first place. If I have it, I will should give them out. It's nothing special about it.
Yeah. Okay, so I've seen a lot of your 2D work, but you mentioned you're going into statues more now. How did that happen?
Well, I guess it's just a natural progression. I like to try different things. So when I first working with DC Comics, I work on a lot of the comic covers.
Right.
So like Batgirls, Birds of Prey, and stuff. It was fun. And then after a while, the merchandising department of DC, got interested with my work and start asking me to design statues for them. So I thought, there's something different. So let's try that.
Okay. And then from that, now you're doing your own statues?
That's something I really wanted to. I'm still in negotiation with some partners. Yeah.
Okay, so you have to find a company to work with. Is that the issue, the main issue?
Yeah, it has always been a challenge for me to find someone or sculptor, whether it's a digital sculptor or a traditional sculptor, that actually being able to convert my artworks into 3D form faithfully. I think that's not easy. Yeah.
Okay, so when I look at your works, something that stands out to me is just the mass appeal. It's like, it's hard to dislike your work. So what do you think separates your work from some of the other competition out there?
Well, firstly, I don't see other people as competition. I see them as community. Yeah, so that's
Right.
always my thinking. But anyway, I believe that my artwork stands out to both male and female. Naturally, I think it's because of the positive energy that my artwork create. As you see, I don't actually do a lot of dark stuff, like really morbid, very very bloody things. I tend to draw something slightly more colorful, or at least something slightly more positive. That's something that I really enjoy, and I guess most of the people can relate to that.
So are there any formulas you think of in your mind that's poses that you think of? Or...
I think eventually it really boils down to your personality and how you view life in general. I'm a very positive person. I enjoy myself and I enjoy my art. I really enjoy it as I love it. So, and I think the kind of love and passion and the positive mindset really translated into my artworks, and people can really feel it.
So do you still walk around with a sketchbook, and do you do much sketching?
No, I don't. Actually, I've never had. I mean, 10 years. For the past 10 years, I have not had any sketchbook with me at all. I did many mental sketches, and I love doing that. In fact, every time I do a new piece of artworks, I will do some mental sketches, and only if I can see what I love in my mind, at least 70% of the final product, then I will start doing on canvas. Yeah.
Can you go into a little more detail about what exactly is a mental sketch?
It's basically just look at life, observe life, and find interesting idea and collect them, and making some doodles, thumbnails in my mind. It's the same as how you do sketches on your sketchbook. It's just that I do it mentally.
So you imagine the line, or you just
Oh
see
yeah,
the
of
picture?
course. I imagine a bit of the line. Sometimes I will imagine. I will try to run through once of how do I get these effects done in Photoshop. What kind of step I need to take? What's the best way to approach this? What kind of style do I need to approach this that bring out the best of this concept? I will go through all that in my mind before I even start doing it.
And where did you learn this from?
I don't learn this from, maybe this is because I always have this lack of time to actually, I don't have the luxury to actually sit at a cafe on weekends to pick up my sketchbook and draw. I don't have it, especially after I got married. I couldn't do that at all. So I just make the best out of my limitations and start doing mental sketches.
Wow. So it sounds like you're pretty busy. What does a typical work day, what does that look like for you?
I usually start work at about 10 o'clock in the morning, and then I start working, checking emails, and once I settle my emails, I go into my production of the current projects, and then probably about 7, 8 o'clock, sometimes I have time to play a game of Dota, and then I'll go back to work. Then I'll do a bit of live stream. If not, I will chat with people online. I do have a chat room, as you know, that I mingle with them sometimes, and I also have a bunch of apprentices that are actually mentoring. So that was also part of my job. And 2 of my weekdays will be devoted to my school, which I teach my diploma in digital illustration.
Oh, so you have your own school?
Yeah, I do. I actually designed a diploma with my partners in digital illustration and concept design. That's the exact course I would love to have when I was younger.
Wow, and was it difficult to get that started?
It was not actually so difficult because we had the luxury, or at least we are fortunate enough to actually work with a local school, local design school, which has been running for the past 10 years. So we just rely on them, use their facilities, and to just launch our program. So it's not that difficult.
Wow, and so the apprentices that you train, do they end up working for your studio, or do you sort of let them loose into the world?
My apprentice is actually the separate bunch of people, which they come from different part of the world. I believe that one came from Russia, one came from Hungary, one came from US, the other one came from Japan, and the last one is actually from Singapore. So I meet them online almost every week using Google Hangout, and just to teach them and talk to them and just inspire them or sometimes create their works. Yeah.
And what are the things you notice the most in the students' works? Are there topics that keep coming up, anatomy or perspective, or what are the, you know?
How big is my canvas? And what's the song that I play in my live stream? I think those are really frequently asked questions.
But I mean,
Yeah, yes, they will ask me, how big is your artwork? Are they in 300 dpi? You know, and what kind of tablet you're using? Are you using a Cintiq? And if so, how big it is? I mean, everything but the concept of art. Quite sad, isn't it?
right, but with your apprentices, I mean.
Oh, if my apprentice, I see them through the progress, and sometimes I give them assignments and a little project to do. Sometimes I give the example of what I will approach art, and for them to actually model after it, something that can benefit them, not just art itself, but how to manage your life as artists, how to manage your career.
So what would be a sample of one of those assignments then?
It can be the first thing I would ask them to set up their own Facebook page and start interacting with the fans, build their own fan base, and manage the fan base and get the fan engaged with your life as artists.
Ah, so your assignments aren't really, you know, draw this picture of a tree and something.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
of course. In the earlier sessions of me and my apprentice, we talk about a lot of fundamentals, how to look at lights, how to look at colors, how to render different materials, and those like fundamental works.
Oh, okay. And once you started getting introduced to Western art, do you have now some favorite artists on the West that you really look at?
Funny thing is, I'm not actually I don't actually have some like idols or so-called art idols that I really like follow faithfully. I like to look at art as the diversity of it, so I always attracted by artworks rather than the artists. But I do have some artists I really like. For example, James Jean, Ashley Wood, and of course Yoji Shinkawa, the one who the man behind Metal Gear Solid.
Right. And is there a favorite work of your own that you really like, that you did?
I think that I like every piece of work that I actually created, at least for a certain period of time until I got tired of it and then I move on. But I would say that every piece of work that I uploaded to the internet are something that I'm really proud of.
Oh. So did you ever have issues with, you know, maybe self-esteem issues? You didn't feel so good about your art? Or has it always been that you're just very positive?
I'm always very positive. I mean, if I look at like a piece of amazing art, I try to admire it, at the same time learn from it and try to understand what's the thinking process of the artist have in mind so that he can create such a piece of artworks. So I always use that to motivate myself and to analyze, to understand, and also of course understand the fact that each of us are different, that not all artist work can be recreated by yourself if you did not walk through the same life path as them.
Right. So what does that look like when you analyze a piece? Where do you, what catches your attention?
There are many, I mean, I like to break down stuff. So I look at a piece of artwork. Firstly, I'll look at the concept, and then the emotions that it conveys, what kind of emotion it conveys. Then after that, I'll look at the technique, like what's the rendering like, what's the finishing quality like, what's the lighting setup, what's the color palette, what's the material rendering, how does it have to convey certain sense of realism. I mean, things like that.
And you do a lot of girls.
Yeah,
is it your favorite thing to draw as girls, or is it just that's what the public wants? So
the funny thing is, of course, I love to draw girls. That's natural.
Right.
I think that guys like to look at girls, and girls like to look at girls. So that's a natural thing for me to draw. I mean, I do draw a lot of guys. Actually, when you check out my Divina gallery, I have a lot of male characters. Just that nobody care, you know. When they look at my girls, they just focus on those girls and ignore those guys that I created.
Okay, so how important is color then when you're thinking of a piece and you're doing your mental sketches? Is color right away, like you see the picture in color?
You see, I'm very into photography, so I like to take photos and I like to use camera to look at the world. And that's exactly what we are doing in artworks. That's why we can have wide angle shots, long shot in our artworks, because we never look at the world through our eyes. We look at the world through our camera lens. So I like to do that. So I include a lot of photography knowledge of appreciation and include those into my work. So I look at color palette. I look at how to actually set up certain lighting in photography so that I can have the calm mood. Yeah. Or which time of the day is the best to show certain color palette.
Okay. So if you were to advise someone who's young, maybe they're 15 and they want to go into art, but they don't really know where to start, what advice would you give to them?
Firstly, you must love what you do. I think that's something that I always tell the young artists, that you must first learn to love your work. No matter how noob you think your work is,
Right.
you just need to start loving them and knowing that being able to create something out of the thin air is already a blessing. So you need to write on that and start building your confidence and start enjoying so that your fans can enjoy it. And of course, fundamentals are important. Many of the young artists nowadays, they look for quick fix. They look for shortcuts. They never invest enough time in building the fundamentals and to understand how things really work in reality, so that you can stylize the reality into your own style. So that's something that we have to invest in, and it's a lifelong journey. You have to always draw something that you love, no matter what kind of thing you like to draw. And you have to learn to draw something that you need to draw, which is the fundamentals. You can't do either or. You have to do both.
And do you recommend people go to books for fundamentals, or is that what art school would be for?
Of course, really depends on what kind of people you are. Some people are very disciplined. They can learn a lot by just like with all the materials that you can find online. And some people, they're more structured, more disciplined way of learning. So they may go into art school or art training program. So there's no one way to do it. But most importantly is that you need to know that in order to develop your own style, your own way of looking at things, you need to first understand the origin of all style, which is no style, which means reality.
Right. So, do you think there's an age where someone is too old to get into art?
No, there shouldn't be any age limit for anybody who like to draw or get into art. But there's always an advantage of you starting young, especially if you want to make art as your profession. Because in our life, there are a lot of other things that may distract us, or divide our attention. For example, marriage, family. So all those things will come into place when you start to have more obligations in your life that you need to take care of. So in that sense, if you can start early and get your foundation, get your career going, you'll have a much easier life in the later part of your life.
So how long have you been married then?
I was married in 30, so it's like about 8 to 9 years.
And all that time before then, you were just focused on art? Is that kind of how it went?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it is surprising how much time you have to devote into art just to get the return.
Exactly. Sometimes people don't realize that, especially young people, they spend a lot of time partying, having fun, and they don't know the importance of when they're young, when their brain's still very active, when their learning ability is still at the prime. You should really make use of those years and invest your time in those things that you really love.
Right.
Really matter to you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and there's a lot of sacrifice that goes on as well. And so, in your life right now, do you consider that you are happy where you're doing the things you want to do, or you have some big goals that you still would like to aim for?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing, but being happy doesn't mean that I stop progressing. I think that I'm really grateful that what I have accomplished up to today, but that also gives me a lot more leverage to start impacting the rest of the world and start to making a difference in the art community, start to grow the next generation of artists, and start being a really true inspiration for others.
So what advice would you give to people who maybe they start working on their art, but they want to build up a fan base, they want to get their exposure?
I think it's very important to understand that as a commercial artist, there are two different areas you have to focus on. First is the quality of your art. The other one is that to make sure that your art is being seen by the people or by your target audience. So that's something that we are talking about. So how to build your own fan base. And firstly, again, you must love your art to begin with. To build your own fan base, you must first love your art. You've seen many artists, young artists out there, when someone say, oh, you've done a great job, your art looks good, the first thing they respond, nah, it sucks. I don't like it. No, it's not as good as that person or that person. You know?
That's me.
So, yeah, so you must understand that if someone choose to watch your art, choose to be your fan, how does that feel? What are you trying to say to them? You are stupid to follow my artworks because I don't even like it. You know? I know, honestly, that's the harshest thing you can say to your fans.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So you really have to understand that part to begin with. Then people can start loving your art. And you have to start building your fan base early. You know, there are many young artists, when you talk to them, they say, oh, I'm not ready yet. I think my art is not good enough.
Right.
Wait till I have really great works, and I will start showing it. Then my challenge for them is that, when will that be? What's the line that you draw that is considered that good enough? It's never too early to build your own fan base, to start putting your works online and let people watch you. Of course, when you're young, when you're still an amateur, you may have fans like 14, 13, 12 years old, and you may think they don't matter to you. But the truth is, if you continue to love your work and continue to put in passion in your work, and you know those guys, they are going to grow up. In 10 years' time, they are working adults.
Right.
One day, they will end up in a company that may need your service, and they will be the person who advocate for you.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you need to really understand that and start building your fan base slowly and early. So, of course, DeviantArt is one of the great platforms. I benefit a lot from my DeviantArt. There's many projects coming from DeviantArt because of the fan base that I built there. And you must understand that it's very interesting that if you can build your fan base to the point that your clients become your fan, that is perfect.
Right.
You look at yourself, when you buy products, buy stuff, how many of time that you actually choose to buy it because of the brand, but not exactly the quality of the product? How many people choose to buy iPhone because of the Apple logo and what Apple represent, rather than the technology of the phone?
Right. Yeah, I think
Right.
quite a lot. Yeah.
Yep, so because of that, it doesn't mean that you have to do sloppy works. I mean that you do great work, but eventually you can build up yourself as a brand so people can choose to work with you emotionally, not logically anymore. Not because you're faster, cheaper, and better, because they love what you do. Doesn't matter you are slightly more expensive than others, they just want you because they're emotionally attached to you. To me, that's a good place to be.
Yeah.
And that will actually prolong your lifespan as an artist.
I never thought of this. Like, this idea had never crossed my mind before, but that is really interesting. Do you think there's a lot of people who go into art and they're... You mentioned you have to love your art, but do you think there's a lot of people who love the idea of being an artist and not necessarily being an artist? You know what I mean?
Of course, there are many people who choose to be art critics rather than the artists as well. But I think it's, there's no right or wrong, but I always believe that in life, your expectation and your action, they must tally, you know?
Right.
If you expect yourself to be a professional artist to do a certain quality of works, your action must make it happen. If you have this mismatch of both, you will suffer. You will feel miserable.
Right.
For example, you expect yourself to draw like people at my level, but you are not even there.
Right.
And your action doesn't do hard. I mean, you doesn't spend enough time to make it happen. Then you feel miserable.
Right. So it's better to not focus on what you look like compared to others, and instead just do your own thing.
I mean, of course, look at people's work, you can get you inspired. But I always believe that as an artist, it's not advisable to keep looking at people's artworks as a source of inspiration.
Right.
You must understand that those artworks are a representation or illusion of life, of an idea. that you must get from walking out of your house, experience life, so that you can get those ideas. I mean, many people just look at the quality of the work, the style of illustration, and get inspired by that. I mean, those are superficial. But what's the meat of illustration eventually is the concept inside.
And what do you mean by the concept then?
The concept means like, regardless of what style you approach, I mean, to convey that piece of work, great ideas is always great idea. Great style or great quality of rendering will just bring out the idea better.
Right.
But idea itself should stay. Yeah.
All right. Well, in closing, are there any last thoughts you would give to any aspiring artists?
In closing comment, I really think that you really have to make art as a lifestyle. You really have to include art into every part of your life. It's not just about a job, a project, or a career. It's something that you need to embrace and live with it for the rest of your life. Then you will start seeing yourself grow as an artist.
All right. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with us and sharing a little bit of your experience.
No problem.
And it was amazing to talk with you. And I will definitely be sharing the links to your live stream and also your DeviantArt for anyone who I don't know who doesn't know you, but if there is anybody who does not know Artgerm or his work, then I will definitely be sharing that. So thank you very much.
Sure.